Let's go. Hey RV family, keep it I keep it time. My name is Jay Morrison. Welcome back to the Metal Tempest. Today I'm going to be doing a video idea that I've had for a good amount of time, but I wanted to let it stack up more and more before I really gave my thoughts on it. And I think this would also be a fun video for you guys to share some of your favorite stories from concerts. In this video, I am going to be doing a ranking of the bands that I have seen live, the heavy metal bands that I have seen live. So if you see me looking in front of me for a major portion of this video, one of the reasons I'm going to be doing that is I compiled a list so I wouldn't lose track or forget any of the bands I've seen live, considering I did see a lot at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. I'm going to be dividing these into a couple of tiers, S, A, B, C, and D, with S being the cream of the crop, the best bands I've seen live, and D being the worst. I'm taking multiple things into account for this. Personal experience is going to play a major role, and some of my favorite bands you may have had a really shitty experience with, and some of my least favorite bands you may have absolutely loved live. It's very relative, and you can't really predict what a concert venue is going to be like. The sound design, the audio engineering, the band performing, their energy, how long they've been on tour, where they're at, the energy of the audience. There are many things that play a part in this. So a lot of these are going to be very subjective and just my personal belief and opinion on the band itself, because I had either a very good or very bad experience seeing them. And finally, one other caveat is when I talk about the bands I saw at Blue Ridge Rock Fest, I'm going to be taking into account the audio engineering, and you might think that for a festival it was just all one thing. No, every single band had their own equipment just as if they were going on tour, so audio engineering is going to play a part in that, even though they were performing on the same stages as some of the other bands that maybe rank higher or lower than them. They're not all just going to be a conglomerate, they're going to be different. I want to keep this kind of homely. I don't want to edit this too much. I don't want to spend too much time editing a big ass video together and making it sort of homogenous. I just want to give you my honest opinion on these bands. And finally, before we get into this, let me know down in the comment section below, what were your favorite concert experience that you have been to? Why did they mean so much to you? And on the contrary, what are some of your worst experiences at a concert or a festival seeing a band? Let me know down in the comment section below, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first 3 concerts that I went to was in a city called Huntington at a big ass arena. The Big Sandy Superstore Arena holds a capacity of around 3,000 people, and pretty much all 3 concerts that I went to were very full, very lively. The audience participation was very good. The first concert I'm going to be talking about was From Ashes to New, In Flames, Five Finger Death Punch, and Breaking Benjamin. I had a VIP pass to meet Five Finger Death Punch. I was particularly there for Breaking Benjamin because they have been one of the biggest bands throughout my entire life that bound me to a lot of the music that I enjoy now, and they'll always hold a special place into my heart. But starting off this list, From Ashes to New is going to get a D tier. I've seen them twice, and I cannot say that much about them. They really do reek of the current new metalcore sphere. I didn't think it felt like they were trying so hard to get people involved, but both times I saw them, audience participation might play a role in this, but I just don't feel like they had the energy, the stage presence, the sound design, or the experience to really carry them through an entire set list, and they felt like exactly what they were, an opener, sadly. In Flames, I'm going to be giving a C tier to. The reason for this, I don't have anything against In Flames. They were really awesome to see, and if you enjoy that melodic death metal sound, they really are a great band, but they felt a little mechanical, like they had done the same thing hundreds of times, and they did not really get the audience that pumped up into them. And I think this might have something to do with the fact that the other 2 main headliners were obviously very different than they were. They were the heaviest band there that evening, but by the same token, I don't think that they really brought their all. They had a great sound design, very chunky, very heavy, a dense audio production to them, but I can't really say that they stood out to me in my mind. This might surprise some of you guys, but I'm going to give Five Finger Death Punch an A tier. Now, while I understand their music's cringy, and I'm not personally a fan of many of their songs or records whatsoever, I can acknowledge the fact that even though Ivan, he had a leg injury around this time, so he was walking around in a big damn boot, their stage presence is on another level, and even if you're not a fan of them, seeing them, you can't help but get a little pumped watching them. They have so much energy, so much stage presence, and they really were an awesome band to see live, especially with the pyrotechnics. The guitarists were very into it, and Ivan as a frontman had such a badass macho delivery and stage presence that even if you're not a fan of them, definitely catch them live if you can at some point, because they really do put on a damn good show. Now, here comes some of my personal bias, but I also want to give some objectivity to it. Breaking Benjamin, I'm going to give an S tier. Breaking Benjamin's been one of the most important bands to me my entire life. Ever since I discovered them, I've followed them, I've collected for them, and I just adore their sound live. I think they are a well-oiled machine with enough stage presence to back it up. And while you can tell that they've done the same thing many times before and are going to do it many times after, I think their set list did what every good set list should do. Bridge the gap between every single generation. They had everything stretching from their very first record into now. From Diary of Jane all the way to Red Cold River. Dark Before Dawn to Phobia to We're Not Alone to Saturate. They literally had every single record be brought into the forefront, along with a really awesome drum solo. Every member brought their all, and I truly do believe they're great, because I saw them twice. I saw them once on tour, obviously for this concert, but I also saw them at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. And both times, they had the crowd energetic, everyone was screaming along, and it showed you just how much people care about them, and I'm included in that list. What could I say? I just really enjoyed them. The next concert that I'm going to be talking about was Slayer's Farewell Tour. Once again, this is one of those bands that kind of meant a lot to me because I got to see it with my father, who had also grown up with them and was a massive thrash metal fan throughout like his entire lifetime, and the Big Four meant a ton to him, and Slayer was a band he really appreciated. And plus, it being their farewell tour sort of hit more, and it made me happy that I'll always get to say that I saw Slayer on their fucking farewell tour. There's not going to be anyone that's going to get to say that in the future ever again. No one's ever going to get to say that they saw the band Slayer before they quit and called it quits. This was a very extreme concert. All four bands really did feel cohesive. Unlike the prior concert, which kind of just felt like a lot of bands doing their own thing, these bands felt like very streamlined. It was Cannibal Corpse, Amon Amarth, Lamb of God, and Slayer. And I know like half of you watching this video just creamed your pants. Trust me, I did too. So starting off, Cannibal Corpse, I'm going to put them at just a solid C tier. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them. They are exactly what you imagine Cannibal Corpse to be live. Chunky, distorted, heavy, down-tuned. Corpse Grinder is an amazing frontman. He didn't really have much audience participation. He didn't really command the audience, but he kind of is just an awesome frontman to see on stage with his whirlwind headbangs and head twirls. Just, he was awesome. They were very tight live, but they did feel very homogenous. They are very cookie cutter and exactly what you think they would be. Amon Amarth, I am going to give an S tier too. Amon Amarth is kind of the opposite of Cannibal Corpse in the way, well, they're the same, but how do I phrase this? Amon Amarth is exactly what you get, but in every good way possible. They had a big fucking Viking boat, and they had the audience doing so much with them. Johan Hegg commanded that entire stadium, and for not being one of the headliners, you would think that everyone in that building was there to see Amon Amarth. They looked the part, they acted the part, their background was incredible. They had this massive background with all this Viking iconography, and it was awesome. They were playing new songs off Berserker because around the time that I saw them, I got a full band signed copy of Berserker that I will show in a CD collection whenever I get around to it. They were phenomenal. They were tight. They had a great track listing. It all flowed together very nice. And my best memory from probably any concert is a human boat that happened in the pit. So during one song, I'm wanting to say, it might have been Way of the Vikings, but it was one of the very heavy, like, chant-like Viking metal songs. People just got on the floor of the pit in a triangular boat formation and started rowing like they were holding fucking oars to the beat of the song. In the middle of the pit, the entire pit just got on the ground. There were about 40 sweaty, like, ugly, hairy, smelly dudes just on the ground, smelling like fucking ass and ball sweat, and they were just having the time of their lives. And you can bet that I was involved in that Viking boat, and I will always be happy. Now, did it smell ungodly? Yes, it absolutely did, but that was part of the thrill of it. It smelled like a weed stack and a dude's hairy ass. But you know what? It was good. And if anyone has been to a concert venue where, you know, the pit, it always has an aroma to it. So imagine them all on the ground rowing a boat in your direct proximity. It was incredible. It was funny, and it's one of my favorite memories I have of any concert, if not the most standout. It was hilarious. I'll get to some of my other really good memories in this too. Lamb of God, solid B tier. Just solid B tier. Randy Blythe is a great vocalist. He commanded it. He has a lot of dynamics. He reminds me kind of what I would imagine Travis Ryan would be like stage presence-wise. He was just really good live. He had a great stage presence. His vocal dynamics and his techniques were on like another level. They had this big-ass stage, like this staircase that led up, and it was just pretty cool to see. I think their set list was pretty good. I don't think they were one of the most standout bands, and they kind of had that same like homogenous, we've done this a million times, so we're not that into it thing, but I digress. Slayer, S tier. Even if they're not the best of the big four, which some of y'all might think they are, it was kind of more the experience. It was being there with my father. It was being there knowing that I was a part of something that so many people would never get the chance to say that they had seen ever again. No one's ever going to get to say that they've seen Slayer as a project ever again live. Their farewell tour, excuse me, if I can speak the English language, that would be wonderful. It was also just the fact that they seemed into it. Despite the fact they're getting older, they've been doing this for decade upon decade, they felt so into it. They felt like they cared about the audience, cared about what they were doing, and that just took it up another level and took it up a notch and made it incredible to see a bunch of masters just in their prime, even though it's been so many years since they've been doing this. And I'll always value getting to be there and getting to see these technical guitar solos and these masters that have so much proficiency and efficiency at their craft. They are musician legends, and it's not something I'm going to forget anytime soon. Alright, so the next concert was also at the same place. I said that at the start of the video, but this was my favorite concert I've ever been to, with some extremely hardcore heavy hitters and one dud. This was a fucking metalcore show, and you know your boy, you know me, if you know this channel, you know that's my bread and butter, and I saw a really awesome assortment of bands. So I saw Can't Swim, Beartooth, I Prevail, and A Day to Remember. And you can already bet that this was one of the most moshy shows you'll ever see in your life. Starting off, Can't Swim, D tier. They're the dud of this concert. I could not get behind them. The vocals were wobbly. There was no vocal control. There was no breath control. The band felt very amateur. They didn't feel interesting. They were slow-paced and sludgy, but they had no distortion behind it, no resonance behind it. Their sound was just okay. The sound design wasn't that good, and it felt whimpery and just vocally absent. There wasn't anything about this band that would particularly ever make me want to see them live again, unfortunately, and if you like them, I apologize, just wasn't a fan of them. So, Beartooth. This was the band that I was there to see because Beartooth is one of my favorite bands. I love Beartooth. Beartooth is going to get an S tier. Caleb is a fantastic frontman, fantastic vocalist, and I love that he's getting better at his technique, being a bit healthier, because I know that even though it sounds cool, his vocal technique has damaged his vocal cords and has messed with his vocal styling for a while. He's been very vocal about that, but he has been cleaning it up ever since. He sounded like an animal, like a visceral, monstrous animal. The instrumentation was fantastic. The audibility was incredible. The breakdowns were built up to, and he would hype the audience up every single time to where when it dropped, that floor turned into a dust pile. People were so into it. It was an amazing assortment, a great set list, and everything about them sounded tight, sounded refined, and sounded great. And Caleb, just being an amazing frontman, made it 10 times better. So on the other flip side of that, I'm also going to give I Prevail an A tier. I Prevail was great live. I was even bordering on giving them an S tier. I've seen them twice. I saw them at Blue Ridge Rock Fest, and I saw them on tour in this concert. They were great live. The energy of the two main vocalists were just great. They were swapping back and forth, and they had amazing chemistry. Take notes from like a band like Linkin Park. When you have a duo that has so much stage chemistry with each other, it comes together a lot better than if you are just two vocalists. And that's a complaint I had about From Ashes to New. They just sounded great. They sounded tight. The instrumentation was great. They had an amazing balance of soft and heavy, and considering they are theoretically, back when I saw them, a newer band, their set list was very identifiable. The people were getting behind it. They were playing everything from Bow Down to Paranoid to Gasoline, and I believe they also played Hurricane, and it just really was a great set list, and it just sounded good. The ambiance and the atmosphere of the instrumentation sounded great, and like I said, the standout of this band was the two vocalists swapping back and forth. And then finally, And a Day to Remember is also going to get an S tier. I had a very bad experience the first time I saw them. I've seen them twice. I saw them at Blue Ridge Rock Fest, and I saw them at this concert. That's going to be a recurring trend. Unfortunately, the first time I saw them, even though I do think they gave an S-tier performance, they took around 40 minutes to come out. And so we were just standing around. We had been moshing for like 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and we had waited in line to get in the venue. So it was hot, it was humid, it was sweaty, it was just it wasn't enjoyable because the adrenaline had so much time to come down and your feet were just killing you. Everyone was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that curtain to come down. But as soon as you heard the introduction to Downfall of Us All, everyone started bouncing and getting so into it. They had an amazing energy to them. You could tell that they have been doing this for so long and have really perfected their set list, perfected their crafts. It had a great assortment of their early material and their newer material, and their newer pop-punky material blended very well with their old metalcore ragers in a way that you might not expect. Now, the second time I saw them live at Blue Ridge Rock Fest, it was so emotional. They had these segments where they would go into acoustic bits, and it is another one of my best memories. There was this extremely beautiful moment. I don't remember what track it was because I was so invested in the moment, where the pit kind of got together for this acoustic song where it was just an acoustic guitar and the vocals, and everyone just sort of put their arms around each other's shoulders and swayed back and forth for the full duration of the song. And there were lighters in the audience. Everyone was singing along. It was nighttime by that point. They were one of the last acts of the night, and it was absolutely heart-wrenching and so beautiful. Such a just poignant moment that I'll always remember. It almost brings me to tears because it felt like togetherness and belonging and just having these friends around you where you're never going to know their faces, you're never going to know their names again. But for that moment, everything got put aside, and age, gender, religion, politics, it didn't matter. Everyone got brought together for this beautiful song, and it was amazing. And they always have these antics. They shoot balls out into the audience. They did that at the first concert, and it was just fun. They have this great balance of emotion and harshness, and this is by far my favorite concert that I have ever been to. Alright, we're gonna go through Blue Ridge Rock Fest. So, obviously my time got cut a little short, but I saw a lot of bands, and I'm not gonna edit this part at all, or at least I'm gonna try not to. And the one thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to go through these gunshot, because there's a lot to talk about, and I'm just going to give a brief explanation. All of these gave pretty full set list. Obviously the ones that were later in the day, if you want to go look at the set list times and who was later, you can assume that they played more tracks than the ones that were earlier in the day. I'm not going to explain every single one unless it's relevant. So starting off the list, Skillet is going to get a C tier. They are just okay. They're fucking Skillet. You know what to expect. They sounded okay. They sounded fine, but they're very corny. They're very cringy. Sabaton is getting a solid A tier. They were fast, they were heavy, they were thrilling, they gave a lot of adrenaline. Their like epic theatrical cinematic vibes just came through in full motion. The vocals were like so over the top and funny. It felt like just a power metal band flexing their autistic muscles and just doing so much fun. Testament, surprisingly, I'm going to give an A tier. the best thrash metal I saw in what you're at Blue Ridge, I mean. And you're going to be surprised by that because, on the contrary, I'm going to say Anthrax was a B tier. And this might surprise you. I think Testament sounded better than Anthrax. I think Anthrax downplayed themselves, and I wasn't that impressed by them for being one of the big four, and I've always been more of a Testament fan than some of the big four tracks. So I think Testament had great energy, great chemistry, great audio engineering, great riffs, great solos, and commanded the audience more. Anthrax didn't even feel like they really wanted to be there. Now, they're still a B tier because they're Anthrax. They're always going to be okay, and they're always going to be better than most thrash metal bands, but that's that. So, not a metal project, but I saw Tech Nine, and it was funny seeing a rapper get people that intrigued in the metal sphere. People surprisingly knew his music and they got into it. I'm going to give him an A tier. He was fun. I know he's not heavy metal, so I'm not going to go too in depth to him, but his breath control is on another fucking level, dude. Like, as a hip hop person, I want his breath control. Tala, D tier. As much as I appreciate Hungry Lights as a YouTuber, and as much as I appreciate Tala as a band, the stage antics certainly reached a point where they overshadowed the music. The on-stage antics and flamboyancy and trying so hard to be like an artistic representation, it made everything feel cheapened and gimmicky. And I understand Tala can be gimmicky sometimes, but it just didn't give a full view of their music. And I've always thought Tala's a little gimmicky and definitely could be better, but this really just proved that, unfortunately, I think they were very phoned in and gimmicky. Wasn't a big fan of their sound, of their stage presence, of anything. Some people got into it, but most people were just staring with glazed eyes. Clutch, I'm going to give a C tier to. If you want alternative rock with a decent production style, they feel a little dated. Their audio didn't really keep the energy heavy, and not that it necessarily needs to be heavy, but they just felt like an alternative in nu metal band from the 90s and 2000s, which is exactly what they were. A lot of people were into them, but I just wasn't personally a big fan of them. Bad Omens is going to get an A tier. I was absolutely blown away by how the vocals sounded so spot on to the actual records. Noah's a Madman, great combination of heavy and soft songs. I didn't get to catch their full set list, but I was right until the end of it before I had to go to see another band. But their sound design was phenomenal. The stage presence was great. They really got the audience whipped up, and the moshing was awesome. Fever 333 is going to get a C tier. Too preachy. Fever 333, I like the fact that they incorporate politics in sort of a System of a Down and a Rage Against the Machine way. It's fun, but the spoken word bits before the tracks, he would just talk for 2, 3, 4 minutes trying to get people hyped, and maybe 15 to 20% of people would cheer. The rest would just be standing there get on with it. And that's kind of how I felt. They sounded good, and definitely one of the better rap rock bands of the today sphere, but other than that, they ain't no zeitgeist. Crown the Empire is also going to get a C tier. Basic metalcore. I've said this before. Crown the Empire, basic metalcore. There's nothing that attracted me to them, that got me excited about them. They felt like a mosh-friendly, mosh-heavy metalcore band, and if that's what you want, then that's what you get. Almost put them at D tier because I think they are just okay and nothing more. The Ghost Inside, on the other hand, fucking S tier. Easiest S tier of my life. Caught their entire set, and I have always talked about how Ghost Inside, if you don't know their story, they're one of the most inspirational metal bands out there. It was incredible getting the opportunity to see them live because I know they're not touring as much as they used to, and they sounded amazing. The mosh pit was frenzied, it was ravenous, the stage presence was awesome, the audio engineering was amazing, the metalcore breakdowns felt like they made so much sense. They had a great lineup and a great set list going throughout the entire thing. They felt cohesive, and they felt like they wanted to be there. Everything about them popped, and also just knowing who the band is, incredible. So, okay, now, alright, this is probably my favorite band I saw there. S tier, Spiritbox. And I know not all of y'all are a fan of Spiritbox, but this is a personal thing. So, if y'all were at Blue Drop Fest, or if you weren't, I should say, you won't know about a thing called golden tickets. Golden tickets were basically these things that you could purchase to go inside this squared off, barricaded area that got you closer to the stage. This is where the mosh pits were, this was where everyone was. Not many people had them. And when Spiritbox came on, it was still early enough in the day because Chelsea Grin ended up dropping off of the stage. So you weren't supposed to go in there, so you were kind of on the outskirts. Spiritbox came on and it started building up and it built up and it built up and people were sitting there like going apeshit, and that's when the stage rush happened. So, this is on YouTube. You can check it out if you want to see it. Everyone started to say, rush it, rush it. And the barricade, you can imagine, was probably, I'm trying to think, it was probably like this high. Like, it was a decent amount high. You couldn't just hop it easily, and it was steel. And so I hopped it. And about like a couple thousand people did too, evidently, because everyone just rushed and the whole place just got completely full. Throughout the day, people started doing it more and more with other bands, and they eventually just opened the gate. I feel bad for people with the golden tickets. But there's also a video, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there's a video on YouTube that is one of the most viewed of Spiritbox's set, and it is a song where around the end of a set list there is a mosh pit that does a circle pit where everyone got in a jump formation and started doing loops around the pit. I was a part of that, and I am very visible. I dare you guys to try to find that and let me know if you can find it, because there's just a lot about Spiritbox's set that I loved. It was also the fact that it was their first show of it was their first show in the US. Courtney, fantastic front woman. The sound design was amazing. They sounded exactly like what you would want them to sound like. The growls, the clean singing was great. The choruses popped. The mosh pits were amazing. And just every part about it really got me into them. And I'm very glad I got to see them. And would love to see them again sometime. Chevelle, I'm going to give a B tier. They are exactly what you would expect from Chevelle. They're tight. They're extremely technical when they need to be. They have that grooving element, that alternative element, and they sound fine. Knocked Loose, A tier if nothing else but for the energy. I am so impressed by the vocals live. Like, you hear the rip-roaring, throat-shredding vocals of Knocked Loose. Usually, imagine them live. They are incredibly tight live. They are even louder and more aggressive live. And it was the most frenzied mosh pit I've ever seen at a show. People were beating the fuck out of people. It was a beat-down hardcore show. You would think it was a beat-down hardcore down-tempo show, like a slam metal show. But no, they're just a really heavy metalcore band, and they owned it. They were insanely tight. Rise Against, I'm going to give a B tier, if nothing else but because of nostalgia. They are that fast-paced, melodic, hardcore, punky sound. The vocals are exasperated and whiny like you would expect from Rise Against. Great set list, a lot of different songs from the start and to now. And I just think the only issue is they got kind of like overly long-winded, and even though they weren't one of the ending bands of the night the time they performed, I think they are just okay. They're tight, and even though I did like them a lot when I was growing up, I think that I've kind of outgrown a lot of their style. Motionless in White, I'm going to give an S tier too. Holy shit, they were the last band before the ender of the night, which was Rob Zombie, which... clever putting those two beside each other. Good job putting the Gothic band before Rob Zombie. That was... I see what y'all did. If that was intentional and deliberate, good on you. Motionless in White was phenomenal live. Great set list. Great energy. Chris sounded amazing. The audio was so crisp. They did some covers. They did like just songs from the start to now. They did everything from Another Life to Reincarnate. It was just so much fun. Like, it was great. And it was around the end of the night, so you had these pyrotechnics and these lights, and it was the only show before Rob Zombie. So everyone from every stage just coalesced, and the entire arena was just, or not even arena, just field. Tens of thousands of people were so involved in it, and it was awesome to see. So, Rob Zombie, I'm going to give a C tier too. Rob Zombie was awesome live. His stage presence was probably unrivaled and unparalleled, but that's not why I'm giving him this rating. It also wasn't the audio. The audio sounded perfectly fine. The reason that I'm giving him this rating is it was very, very bloated. people were waiting for Dragula, and he obviously did that last, so everyone got into it, and he did like Living Dead Girl and a lot of his most famous songs, but it was around the midway point where the energy of everyone just kind of fell off a tad. He started getting more into deep cuts, and I understand because he was later in the night, he probably wanted to sort of expand his set list, and he was the last act of the night, so he was obviously going to have a longer set list. But that wasn't an issue that I thought Breaking Benjamin had. Breaking Benjamin had an amazing set list that bridged the gap between every bit of their material in a way that people would recognize and understand and keep the energy up. The energy fell off in the latter half of Rob Zombie when he got into the deeper cuts. It was about an hour and a half worth of material, and it started to drag because less and less people were singing along, less and less people were involved, less and less people were moshing, less and less people were like excited, and it wasn't until the end where it really started to pick up. So that's why I'm giving him that. And then finally, and this might be the biggest shocker, and y'all are going to make some assumptions, but let me get to this. Asking Alexandria, anyone watching this channel is about to probably think that I'm crazy, D tier. And that's probably surprising given how much I have talked highly of them. No, it's not because this is the one that I, like, fucking fractured my two arms to, stoved my two arms to. It's actually not that, because I heard a lot of their set list prior. I went and looked up the other songs that they performed. They have such a bad syndrome of forgetting that they ever existed in the past. They just performed, like, an entire album's worth of material from their last few records, and it was really annoying because they forgot From Death to Destiny existed, they forgot Stand Up and Scream existed, they forgot Reckless and Relentless existed, and to my knowledge, don't quote me on this, I don't even think that they performed the final episode, like their most iconic song that everyone knows. Danny wasn't on his game. I don't think Ben was on his game. They didn't sound that great. Their audio was kind of subpar for being a large band, and I was very disappointed in seeing them, sadly. Moving on from there to the last concert that I've seen, and the most recent, that being at a place called the V Club, also in Huntington, West Virginia, and this was a deathcore show. Got Signs of the Swarm, Shadow of Intent, and Born of Osiris, so this was a pretty cool lineup. I'm going to start off by saying Shadow of Intent, unfortunately, C tier. They were not involved with the audience at all. People didn't seem that involved with them, and I think that was reflective of the energy on stage. They just kind of came up and did their thing. They didn't interact much. They were just kind of homogenous, robotic, mechanical, get your set list done, move on. Like, that's how they felt. And I think they're great. They had a great sound to them, and overall, I think they were okay. It just wasn't a very standout moment for me. Signs of the Swarm, though, on the other hand, S tier. They commanded that room in a way that I've rarely seen. And it's hard to believe that vocals can come out of someone like that live, but they did. It's literally like a Lorna Shore material. Just the shrieks and the growls and the vocals were incredible without much mic cuppage. Like, I'm a big, like, staunch advocate for people to not cup the fucking mic in metal because it makes it sound so distorted and bassy and not in the pleasant way. Vocalists that do that live are just hiding behind the fact that they don't have vocal support and they cannot produce growls and screams at a rate that doesn't either damage their throat or have to be right up against their mouth to be able to produce the sound that they want. You should be able to do vocals properly without any sort of distance or cupping a microphone. I'm just gonna sit over here to try to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Oh wow, I don't have a mic being cupped to my mouth. How am I ever going to make a distorted, low, bassy type of death growl? Oh wow, it seems as if I want to do a tunnel throat scream. Wow, I do not have a microphone to combat with the fact that I cannot make a proper tunnel throat scream without having a mic distorting my voice artificially. Wow, how am I going to make these black metal-esque shrieks? I am standing and there is no microphone anywhere around me. How am I going to be able to produce these noises? Oh no, guys, I can't do vocal support. I don't have breath support. I can't make these death growls. How am I ever going to lower them into a lower octave to make them sound bassier and distorted? Oh my god, where's my dad? Where's my mom? Holy shit! I think that might be my favorite skit I've ever done in a video. If any of y'all are still watching this video, that was like peak comedy in my opinion. I want to do more metal covers. I should do that. But yeah, anyway, back to the matter at hand. Signs of the Swarm was incredible live. They had amazing vocal techniques. They had amazing vocal talent, and everything about them sounded tight. The mosh pit got into them. But let's move on to my favorite of this concert, Born of Osiris. Another one of my favorite bands, S tier. I'm going to give that not because of bias, but because they sounded so tight. Everything about their gent riffs, the lineup, the set list, everything about it was phenomenal. It flowed in well, and Signs of the Swarm and Shadow of Intent really hyped Born of Osiris up. I ended up getting a Born of Osiris drumstick. I'm not sure where I put it, but I will show it in a video at some point. It's in my Born of Osiris concert review. Like, I did a video along those lines, and yeah, you can see it if you go check that out. But holy crap, I loved seeing Born of Osiris live. They sounded great. They played a lot of material from all of their records. They've played everything from Machine to Throw Me in the Jungle to Angel or Alien. I think my only complaint is I would have loved to just see them play Follow the Signs. I don't remember them playing Follow the Signs, and it really surprised me because that's one of their most iconic and well-recognized and well-known songs. But hey, you win some, you lose some. It was overall just a very solid, like, S-tier concert. Anyway, guys, that wraps it up. That wraps this video up. Let me know your best concert experience, your worst concert experience, and anything in between. Let me know down in the comment section below. Have you seen any of these bands? And if you have, what did you think about them? Let me know down in the comment section below. I can't wait to hear what you guys say about this topic. Thanks you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, and I am signing off saying farewell.